Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Electric cars are becoming more common, but e-bikes are also becoming more of a thing. I do not have an e-bike. I've got a couple mountain bikes, but no e-bikes. But California is considering a driver's license requirement for e-bikes. This is from boingboing.com. Chris sent this to me, and this is an interesting proposition because e-bikes are one of those things where in the hands of the wrong person, being driven in the wrong place, could be a problem. But then again, does everything need to be licensed? So Jason Weisberger wrote this. In California, an Assembly Bill 130 would establish the requirement for a driver's license for e-bikes and set an age minimum of 12. So 12 years old and up could ride an e-bike, but they'd have to get a license to do it. Legislators are concerned that children who have never been exposed to traffic laws are taking e-bikes to the streets. And I have, in my life, on a couple different occasions, had problems with children doing things in traffic because they didn't understand traffic or traffic laws. Jason says he sees both sides, living in one of the Los Angeles' most bikeable and walkable areas, the Venice Beach Boardwalk. There's a fantastic bike path, slightly separated by a stretch of sand from the pedestrian free-for-all. But cyclists, skateboarders, e-scooters, roller skaters, and bladers, pedicabs, and e-bikes fly through the crowd all day long. The thing is, age does not seem to be a limiting factor for ignorant behavior. Adults can behave badly too. A handwritten sign reminds drivers not to take their cars on the boardwalk. And he says, because people are stupid. E-bikes can also be too stealthy for people to determine quickly. Jason's got a battery hidden in his down tube and a hub motor that looks like a part of the belt drive. He thinks this law is likely to be more a reason to harass minorities than it is for their safety. He also thinks some of the faster, stronger, better e-bikes are electric motorcycles or e-motor scooters and could be regulated as such. Require an M2 motorcycle certificate and insurance for stuff that goes beyond a determined speed or can carry X amount of weight. They are likely to have bad things happen with them. Smaller bikes can be regulated like they're pedal-powered precursors, which, of course, there's very little, if any, regulation on bicycles. And I'm talking about the human-powered kind that you pedal. Assembly Bill 530, which will soon enter committee, would require both an online written test and a state-issued identification for riders who do not have a driver's license. If you have a driver's license, of course, you need to be a little older. If you have a driver's license, you can ride an e-bike under this proposed law. It's just that between 12 and 16, you would need a specific e-bike license because that's all you could drive, at least until you got your learner's permit. The bill would also ban riders under 12 from riding e-bikes. And keep in mind, that I would assume be banning them from riding them in public places. Obviously, in your backyard, they could probably ride it all day long. According to reports, the bill would create an e-bike training program and would work with several organizations to help educate riders who haven't yet learned the rules of the road through a typical driver's education course. That'd be the DMV and the California Highway Patrol working on that. Assembly member explained that the creation of a driver's license for previously unlicensed e-bike riders is a matter of safety. She says, as a mother and a legislator, I believe that we must act to prevent our youth from injuries and educate parents on the promise and responsibility of e-bikes. And this bill is another step to increase the safety while sharing the road. I believe the bill's number is 530. I said 130 at the beginning, but it's referenced several other times as 530, and I think that's probably the correct number. So that is a proposed bill in the Assembly in Sacramento that would require a license for e-bike riders between the ages of 12 and whenever they get their driver's license. And the thing about it is, and again, I'm just going to tell a little anecdotes here. My anecdotes don't prove anything. I'm simply saying examples from my life of things I've seen. I lived in a neighborhood once where it was a subdivision off a major road, but it was a subdivision. And a little kid down the street from me got a go-kart one year for, I'm guessing, his birthday. And all of a sudden in the spring, this kid shows up on a go-kart, and the subdivision did not have sidewalks. Very large yards, but no sidewalks. This kid's on his go-kart just zipping around the neighborhood. Zing, 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 just ripping around the neighborhood. And I'm guessing he's 8 or 9 years old. And the go-kart's pretty fast. It's pretty loud. I didn't mind that at all. I did not mind that at all. I had a mini bike when I was a kid, okay? I didn't ride around the neighborhood, but I had a mini bike, so I can understand the joy of having a go-kart. And one day I'm driving down the street, and the kid comes flying out of a side road in the subdivision and comes hauling straight towards me. He's on the wrong side of the road. And I have to lock up my brakes. And as I lock up my brakes, he pulls a quick U-turn and he takes off going the other direction. And all I could think of is, if I run this kid over, his parents are suing me. I mean, there's no question. It's not going to be, oh, sorry, we shouldn't have let him play in the street with his go-kart. And so I've mentioned before, I did a video about one of my neighbors. And I had a neighbor who was very, very crotchety. And he and I did not get along. But you got to remember, it wasn't just me. No one in the neighborhood liked him. But he did something that I think many of us later on agreed with. At least we think it was him. But someone called the cops on the kid with the go-kart. And one day, I'm out mowing my lawn, and I see a cop car come into the subdivision, pull up the side or the driveway over there where the kid lives with the go-kart. So I kind of look over the bike, just kind of go about my business. A little while later, the cop car leaves. And I knew 4 or 5 of my other neighbors. And one of my neighbors said, yeah, he goes, cops went over and paid a visit to the kid with the go-kart. And I later heard that one of the parents actually said to the police officer, well, if he can't ride it in the street, where is he supposed to ride it? And maybe you should have thought of that before you bought him a go-kart. Where is he going to ride it? I don't know. I don't know of any go-kart tracks that were near there. You know? And so, again, I remember what it was like to be young and how cool that have had a go-kart at that age, which I didn't have. But I can also tell you that I lived in an area where there was a road between 2 subdivisions, but it was a major road. And I encountered this one kid, because I'm not sure if he was leaving a job or going to a job or leaving school or something, but I encountered this kid several times, and he had a scooter. And I think the scooter was gasoline powered, but it had no license plate on it. So it was not something that needed to be license plated, I don't think. And it couldn't do more than like 15 miles an hour. And he would pull out into the road, and it's just a 2-lane road, one lane going each way. He'd pull out into the road and just drive along in the middle of the lane at 15 miles an hour. And the speed limit was 45. And you'd get behind him, and there'd be a stack of cars going all the way back, and he didn't care. Now, he is supposed to be over to the far right side of the road, as close as you can get to the fog line as possible and stay on the pavement. He's allowed to do that because he's on, in essence, a bicycle. And he would do this out in the middle of the lane. And I saw him, and I know that he was not old enough to have a driver's license. He did not have a driver's license, and he was riding his scooter illegally, and he apparently didn't know that what he was doing was illegal. And I remember encountering this kid anytime I was driving on this one road. Seemingly like once every couple weeks I'd encounter this kid. Just blocking traffic, riding in his little scooter. And so I don't know if a police officer ever saw that or ever dealt with the kid or ever suggested he should stop it. I don't know. And eventually I moved and never saw the kid again. But I just remember at the time going, does this kid not know what the law is? Does he not care? Does he not? I mean, he's got a rear view mirror. Can he look at it and see a line of cars up behind him? You know, so I'm not saying I agree with requiring a driver's license for an e-bike. But I am saying I'm very, very familiar with, and I feel the pain of the people who encounter kids doing goofy things on e-bikes. However, adults do goofy things also. So if you're going to enforce a law like this, you got to crack down on everybody, meaning that you got to watch for the bad behavior of everybody who are using these things wrongly. So I can tell you I went to law school in California. I've mentioned that before. In Los Angeles, and for a while stayed very, very close to the beach, and used to go down to the beach all the time. I love Manhattan Beach. Manhattan Beach is such a cool little community. Huntington Beach is nice, though, also, and there's quite a few, Hermosa and so on. But Manhattan Beach is just a really, really cool beach. But any place along that stretch of the California coastline, beautiful beach, and then that walking path, biking path, whatever you want to call it, goes up and down that area. And you'd see all kinds of stuff there. And so if you want to see some of the craziest things on Earth that you'll see in public, you go to Venice. My brother lived in Venice for a while. I'd go out and visit him. We'd go down to the beach and watch what was going on. So, whole different ballgame. But anyway, from boingboing.com, Jason Weisberger writes, Chris sent it, thanks a lot. California is considering the requirement for a driver's license for e-bikes. Questions or comments, put them below those. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. A fine is a tax for doing wrong. A tax is a fine for doing well.